All right, guys, welcome to section 2, and here we're going to dive into some really fun things. We're out on location today, and we're out in the woods, and we're going to be filming our own little mini documentary for the purpose of you being able to see us do it, and we're going to use these files and things so that you can learn from what we're doing today. And so you'll see Jordan here in the background. We're going to be filming him in just a minute. But a big part of what this section is about is interviewing, because there's a lot of technique and things involved when you go to interview somebody. We're gonna spend a little time right now talking about things that you need to remember and know before you go and start interviewing people for your documentary film. So the first thing we wanna talk about whenever you're going to interview anybody is that your interview person, your subject, they need to be in a comfortable place. It needs to be a place that they can feel at home at. So you might wanna film them at their home or at their work, maybe wherever it is that they like to be. You want them, the subject, to be as comfortable as possible, because most of the time when you interview somebody, this is not something they do regularly. And so as soon as you put a camera in their face and a microphone on them, they can tend to get really kind of scared or nervous. And so one of your jobs is to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So first, take them to a familiar location. Make sure it's something that they are comfortable with. The second thing that you want to do is you need to chat with them a little bit before you start. Don't just get there, set up everything, and then say, all right, here we go, and hit record. It won't really work. Sometimes you got to just start talking with the person, get them comfortable, get them used to talking with you before you hit record and start asking them a bunch of serious questions. So get them comfortable, put them in a location that they're comfortable with, and then just start talking with them, ask them about their day, ask them what they had for breakfast. Just start talking, have a conversation before you get to roll, and that way you're comfortable and they're comfortable. Start your interview with easy questions. They might not even be questions you're planning on using, but by asking them some random questions up front, just about fun things and about really easy softball questions, it will make them more comfortable. They'll feel like, okay, I can answer these questions, I know what to say on these questions, and they'll feel more comfortable. And so that way you're not just starting off with hard questions or emotional questions. You're gonna wanna save those for the end and not at the beginning. At the beginning, try to keep it light, really easy. Even if you don't use that footage, it's okay, because you're just working on making them comfortable with you while you're talking. You have to be able to interact during the interview. But the problem is you can't really talk, because you don't wanna talk and have your audio cutting into their audio. So while they're talking, a great thing to do is nod. When they say things that are interesting, smile, agree. Try to make it your face as expressive as possible while you're interviewing them, so that they feel like they're having a conversation, even though you can't really say anything. And then when you do say stuff, make sure that there's a clear break. Let them finish a sentence, finish a paragraph, and then when there's some silence, then you can come in and say, hey, that's really good, what about this, and insert another question. So just make sure that you're interacting, you're nodding, you're doing the different things so that they feel, okay, we're having a conversation here. Another important thing that you want to do is save your emotional questions or your harder questions for the end of the interview. You don't want to do these things early, because if you do them early, you're probably not going to get as good of an answer from them as you will if you do it at the end of the interview, because by the end, the subject is usually feeling more comfortable. They're feeling like, okay, we've been talking for a while, and so they're more relaxed. And when they're more relaxed, their answers will be better every single time. So just trust me on this. If you feel like they might get emotional, or if it's a difficult question that you're going to ask them, save it for the end. Make sure you've planned out your questions before time and you put those questions at the end. As you're conducting the interview, you got to be listening for what they're saying, so that you know, okay, in editing, later on, you're going to have to put this together. And so you need to make sure that their answers are good. So if they start an answer, but then they kind of mess up and then they complete the answer, you can ask them, say, hey, that was great what you said. Do you mind saying it one more time for me? Can you start with what you said here and make it all the way to here? It's okay to give them guidelines. It's okay to say, can you re-say something? I know you just said it, but for the camera purpose, you might want to have them state it again, maybe in a more clear way. So just ask them, say, hey, that was great what you said. Do you mind saying it one more time for me? And let them say it again. They don't mind. People are very flexible. They'll work with you. So if they didn't say it just right, if there was a mistake, or if they started the sentence with some weird wording or something, it's okay, just say, hey, do you mind saying it one more time for me? They'll do that. As you're conducting the interview, you got to remember of cut points. So make sure you're thinking, okay, they just started here and they talked, and give them a point where you can cut in your mind of, okay, the interview went to here, I can jump in now and say another question or a new question. But think about cuts. You don't want to have them end a sentence without actually completing the train of thought. So if they don't complete the train of thought, make sure that you do do that. Make sure that you say, hey, do you mind staying at all again for me? Because I'm trying to keep this cut spot in mind, and that will give you something to work at in editing later. You'll be so glad that you did. Because when you hit the editing room and the interview is done, what you filmed is what you filmed, and that's all you've got. So you got to make sure that you look for those cut points, imagine them in your mind before you're ever even in the editing room. So while you're interviewing, sit there and think, okay, where am I going to cut this train of thought? Where am I going to cut this? And make sure that there's a cut spot, so then you can jump in there and say, hey, that was a great job. And the last thing I want you to think about is make sure you're encouraging to the people involved, to your subject. Let them know, hey, you're doing a great job. Even if they're not doing a great job, tell them that they're doing a great job, because it will relax them. It will make them feel a lot better about things. So say, hey, you're doing a great job. I've got a couple more questions for you. Let them answer and say, hey, that was a great answer. You're doing a great job. What about this? And just keep encouraging them. And then when the interview is done, tell them again, wow, you did a really great job. I'm really excited to see how this is going to look. It's going to turn out great. And you want to really encourage them, make them feel like they've done a great job, whether they have or haven't, because you know what? They've given you their time. They're doing something that's unfamiliar, and it's hard to be in front of a camera. So make sure you've encouraged them. It's really great for them to feel like, okay, that was really worth my time. I did a good job. You want them to feel that way. And if they feel like they're doing good, they're going to do a better job in the overall interview. So keep all those things in mind. And with that, we're going to turn it over to Josh now, and we're going to be actually conducting an interview for you to watch. And so we're going to see an interview in action.
All right, guys, so now we sat Jordan down. We kind of figured out how we're going to frame up the shot somewhat. So now we're going to mic them. So I have a lavalier right here, and I'm going to kind of show y'all how to mic them up. So we're going to hide the receiver actually back in this corner, because you won't be able to see it in the shot because of the hammock will be blocking it. And Jordan, if you can run this cable through your shirt, I'm going to kind of help you clip it onto your collar. Now, it's really important when you're having someone run it through the shirt and clip it on the collar, you always want to listen to the interview first, because sometimes people have shirts that are material that really rub up against the microphone, that make really noise. This might sound crazy, but sometimes chest hair can make some crazy noises. So it's really good before you start interviewing, make sure you do some sound checks. You know, check 1 2, check 1 2, have them move a little bit to make sure you're not getting any weird noises. Okay, so I'm going to run this actually through his shirt right here, and I'm going to clip it outside of his shirt just to make sure that we don't get any weird noises inside there moving around. So I'm going to clip this around his chest, pointing it up towards his throat. And now we're going to do some sound checks to make sure that that's good. Now, another option we're going to do is the boom pole. So we're going to also set up a boom pole about right here, pointing down, remember, at his chest, not at his throat. So it's probably going to be coming right here over the camera, pointing down at his chest, and we're also going to do sound checks from the boom pole. The next step is setting up the camera. So I've already kind of set up the camera. He's in the rule of thirds right now, and he's looking almost straight at the camera. So the next really important thing is where you stand. Where are you going to be talking to Jordan whenever I'm doing the interview? So looking at this frame right here, I see that the look space is to the left of the camera. And so if I were going to be conducting the interview, I would actually be standing about right here. So Jordan, look at me. And so you can see that he's looking at the look space to this side of the camera. And now he's looking through the empty space. He's looking straight at me, and I'm standing about eye level with him, also with the camera. Now, you would never want to do an interview where he's looking way down at me, or if I was really tall, if he was, you know, looking way up here, you want to have him looking about eye level with the camera. And then also, if I were to be standing on this side, Jordan, look at me. You can see now that he's looking away from the negative space. So we have the negative space here, and he's looking away from it. Now his nose is pointing towards the edge of the camera. We don't want that, so I'm going to be standing over here. I'm going to kind of stand about eye level with the camera. So now he's looking at me through the negative space, eye level with the camera, and now we can get ready to start conducting our interview. All right, guys, so now we're set up for our interview, and now we're going to talk a little bit about how to conduct an interview, how to ask questions, because that is so important with documentary filmmaking. So the first number one thing that you never, ever, ever want to do is ask yes or no questions. So if I was asking Jordan a question about hammocking, I would never ask him, Jordan, do you like hammocking? He's either going to say yes or no. Instead, I would change it up and say, Jordan, what do you like about hammocking? And now he's going to start explaining his passion, what he likes about it, what he doesn't like about it, and you're going to get much better results. Another thing is to make sure that your interviewee, he answers in complete sentences. So if I'm asking him, Jordan, what do you like about hammocking? And he just says, it's so peaceful, it's relaxing, I get a rush from it, it's just awesome. Well, now the audience has no idea what he's talking about. Instead, if he answered in complete sentences and he goes, hammocking just, it makes me relax, it does this, it does that. And now he's answering complete sentences, and now the audience is gonna know what in the world he's talking about. Another big thing about asking questions is rewording questions. So let's just say I know that his story, the main point that I'm trying to get is that how he got started with hammocking. That's kind of the main point that I'm trying to get. And I asked him, Jordan, how did you get started with hammocking? And he doesn't quite give me the answer that I want. Well, now I'm gonna take that same question, I'm gonna kind of reword it and ask him again. And I'm gonna keep asking him and rewording the question until I get the answer that I want and I know that I need to make this movie possible. And last but not least, remember to always be encouraging to the person that you're interviewing. Always in between takes, just like, wow, that was a great answer, good job. Even if it's good or if it's bad, you just always want them to feel comfortable, feel encouraged, because they're always gonna be more bright and expressive in the giving you the answers, and the answers are always gonna be better. So, you know, after each answer, I'm gonna be encouraging him. After the take, I'm gonna say, oh my goodness, that was fantastic. I can't wait to see how this is gonna turn out. You did a fantastic job. So remember, always be encouraging.